I am so happy to be here with y'all and talk to you about this. I feel like planning is always something like that is so interesting and so personal. Like everyone does it different. Everyone has different relationship to how they feel about planning, what they like about it, what they don't. I have a specific way that I like prefer to do it that works for me, but like as always, take that for what it is. Hey Michelle, good to see you. Like take what resonates, leave the rest kind of thing. Just because this is the way I plan doesn't mean it's like the right way to plan in any way, shape, or form. It just is kind of how I do it, how it works for me. I am someone who obviously is like very like strategic in my planning, but I also really resist too much like rigidness. So this is sort of like my middle ground. And so if that resonates for you, great. If it doesn't, throw it out the door. But I have some like templates and stuff I'm going to share with y'all today too, if that's helpful. So you can like make them yours as well. But I'm just going to walk you through a little bit of how I do it, what it looks like for me, what has like worked best for me over the years. I think this is like especially let me use the middle ground. I can only live in the middle ground, I think. Um, what I think is especially true this year, I actually did a reel on this today, but you know, things are changing. Christina said, yes, I hate having to do something, even if I make myself do it. Yes, it's so funny, Christina, this is not you at all. So please, please know this is not me saying this is you, but this is just like some random TikTok rabbit hole. I went down of how there is like a type of autism that they're diagnosing in certain countries in Europe. Like it's not a diagnosis that is part of our diagnostic criteria in the US. But anyway, um, it's it's called PDA. What is it? Now I can't remember, but it's basically like where if someone makes a demand or request of you, even if it's yourself, like it is very anxiety producing. And it was this mom was talking about how her daughter, anyway, I just like found it so interesting and I like love learning stuff about that. But it reminded me a little bit of that of like sometimes these like demands or requests we place on ourselves, even if they're from us, are really like not good for us, whether it produces anxiety or whether you are, if you're an entrepreneur, this is really relevant, whether you're the type of person who kind of pushes back against the having to do, right? Which is maybe why you hated corporate, et cetera, et cetera. It can be like really triggering. And it can make you resist what you ultimately like want to build sometimes. So anyway, like I am a little bit like that too. If I feel like I have to do something, I get very resistant there. Probably why that TikTok rabbit hole is interesting to me. But anyway, same page. Hey, Claire, it's good to see you. Michelle, I am so sad about TikTok. I feel like I mean, maybe like just no one in our space is really talking about it as much, but I am like, this is such a big deal. One, I'm personally devastated. And two, I feel like this is such a big deal. Like, we need to be talking about this more. I feel like that should have probably been today's live stream, but whatever. I planned this in advance. But I did a reel on it today and I was like, oh, that's what I was talking about. I was talking about adaptability. And I was saying, like, I did a reel today saying, like, you know, if TikTok goes away, things are going to shift significantly in the social media landscape, whether you're someone that's ever grown your business on TikTok or not, like whether a new platform, pops up or, the platforms we're on are even more saturated. There's even more competition for people's attention, et cetera, et cetera. Like there are going to be changes. And like, a lot of people are saying they're going to boycott Meta, blah, blah, blah. Like I have no idea what that's going to look like, nor am I going to pretend like I somehow have a crystal ball to see all of that. But what I know for sure is that things are going to change and they're going to change incredibly rapidly from January 19th on if TikTok truly goes away. And it's like really time for us to be like paying attention to that, which relates to planning because yes, you can make this perfect plan, but like you have to also be adaptable in that plan, because things like this come up, things change. Like what might make sense on January 13th doesn't make sense on March 13th, right? So it's like so important we do that. Yeah, Christina, exactly. Like the culture of Instagram will change so much if TikTok goes away. Michelle was saying how it's like the algorithm is so superior. I couldn't agree more. Like, oh, I love TikTok, you guys. I am a devoted fan. Okay. Shit is shifting. Um, hey, Emily, revamping my whole Q1 this day. Yes, right? Like, hey, Alyssa, good to see you. Like, it is really going to be big. And so that's why planning is in a more flexible way, I think is really helpful because you're not like, oh my God, must be like this and then holding yourself to this really rigid standard. You're like, hey, here's like kind of the flow for us. Here's what I have on deck. Here's what makes sense. And then when something like this happens, you can make shifts and changes because it's pertinent, because it's relevant. Fran, it's one of my favorite pastimes. I'm so sad to see it go. I mean, same, truly. And hopefully like as Christina was saying, the uh culture of Instagram will change. Like, I mean, hopefully that's in a really positive way, but again, who knows? Do you see all the TikTok people going to IG? I don't know, Alyssa, to be honest with you, in the things I've seen on TikTok, I feel like a lot of very hardcore TikTok people are boycotting Meta. Um, so I have no idea, but I also think a lot of creators are going to have no choice but to focus on some of IG as a platform as well. I mean, the way TikTok pays creators and like what people are going to be losing in terms of income is so extreme from this that I can't imagine they're not going to try to capitalize on that in other ways. So I have no idea, but I think it'll be really interesting. And again, it's going to, whether all of us are jumping to a new platform or Instagram is just massively saturated or whatever. Yeah, Emily, I'm hearing a lot of people say YouTube because they're YouTube shorts, especially because of the desire to not be on Meta, et cetera. So many people are throwing out all these other new platforms. I just know that we have to make space to figure this out and change with it. And that is true of any plan you will make in your business. We have no idea, like what's going to get thrown into the mix. It's obviously already been a very crazy year, which by the way, before I forget, I meant to do this at the beginning and sorry, we all got sidetracked, but speaking of crazy year, I really, really wanted to share this. One of my clients is in LA and she's okay. She lost power and had to evacuate. She has power. She's back. Her home is okay. But she's been volunteering all weekend. Like, obviously so many people have lost everything. And so I just wanted to share the link that she shared with me. It's just like the GoFundMe link that shares all the like specific families affected by. I think this one is specifically for the Altadena fire because that's the area that she's in. So I'm just gonna like share that really quickly. I'm going on there right after this and just going to pick a few families to donate to. So I just wanted to name that. Speaking of like this year has already been insane evidence of how awful, some things that have already happened have been. And so, yeah, we just have to like do the best we can and pivot. But anyway, if you feel compelled in any way, I just want to share that link. So, all right, let's get into it. I am going to share my screen in a second. Okay, cool. All right. So, well, actually, you know what? Let me stop sharing that and I'll talk about it and then I'll share it more. But basically, hey, Misha. Oh, and also a note, if you comment today, you're entered to win any of my products, you can just pick what products you want, but obviously we do that every week. Just wanted to name that. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to share with y'all, and I'll just share this to get you started. Here is a link to everything I'm going to talk about today. None of that is behind an opt-in wall or anything. These are just templates that I use if they're helpful for you. But basically what I do is I do 6 months of planning at a time. Typically I do have like an idea for my full year, but I do more detailed 6 months planning. Again, one of the reasons for that is adaptability. I do a bit broader picture so I can see how it all fits together. Like what I want to focus on in first half of the year versus last half, but in like a more detailed way. I do 6 months again, because I want to be adaptable. I don't want to feel like I am rigidly attached to knowing what November looks like in fucking January, you know? I feel like one of our biggest assets as small business owners is being able to adapt, that like making a change isn't like turning the Titanic. And so I always try to like leave room and space for that for myself. And then basically what I do is for each month, I'll write out, and this is on the planning template. I was going to share it, but it might be more confusing if I share it. So let me talk about it and then I will. But I do what I'm focused on, what life stuff I have on deck, what I'm selling, how I'm marketing, how I will feel, and anything else that feels relevant. The reason I do it like this is because I feel like when you're clear on like, here's what I'm selling, here's how I'm marketing it, here's how I want to feel this month, here's what matters. It's just so fucking easy to show up for all that when you're feeling like, well, I kind of should be selling this, but also this, and like maybe I should market in this way, but also what about this? And da 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 da. Like that is when you are in absolute decision fatigue. And when you're like, how did the month go by? And I like didn't do the thing I said I was going to do or wanted to do. The other reason I do this is because I think we have to include life and what's happening in our life as a huge part of our plan. That I've always done that, but like, especially since being a mom, like every single decision I make in my business is going to have a knock-on effect to like what's happening in my life, and or every single decision I make in terms of how I spend time in my life is going to have a knock-on effect of what's happening in my business. And I think we can't pretend that those are separate, right? I'm going to Disney at the end of this month. So that's just like an example, but it's like, that's on my January thing. Like you're going to Disney this weekend. Don't like expect yourself to like get an assload of stuff done that week. Like that just doesn't make sense. Oh, good. Yeah, I'm speaking your language. I love eliminating the decision fatigue. Same. Like when I'm not in decision fatigue, I find executing incredibly easy, right? You know, maybe that's just me. I'm a generator, right? But like when I am like, and like when I sit down, I like don't even know where my energy should be. Like it's so fucking chaotic. Right? Christina, wait, we can't just ignore our life. I think that you have made a valiant effort, but I think that it is hard to do that. I love you. Michelle said, oh, I feel like this would be a good exercise for me to do with embracing, like thinking through what I have coming up each month and also what kind of content would be relevant to find or share. Exactly. Like, I think that's so true, Michelle. Or even like me being like, oh, okay, I'm like going to Disney at the end of this month. Like, amazing. Is there like content ideas that I might come up with related to like B-roll I'll capture there or whatever? Like, it just makes it so much easier. Or like another thing, this is very much a me thing. I don't think this is most people, but I was literally telling my team this morning. I am not my best self over the summer. Like, it's just true. June, July, and August in Florida, they're icky. In fact, I kind of want to leave this summer. I find it very difficult. I find it difficult to not be outside as much. I do not enjoy the heat. I have almost nothing planned for those 3 months in my business because I know I'm not as excited or motivated then. It's just not my season to shine. I do really, really well from like Jan to I think most of the rest of the year, honestly, like those 3 months are just not it for me ever. I've never been like that. And so I just have gotten to a point where I'm not going to pretend like I am. Oh my God, Christina, you're the same. That's so funny. That like makes me feel normal because I feel like other people are the exact opposite. Um, yeah, like Michelle said, winter months, right? Like Sarah and I talk about this all the time because December, she's just never has thrived. Ever, 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 for as long as I known her, December is never her month. And I remind her that too. And like she does the same for me. She's like, why is it so hard right now? And I'm like, because you're not in your month, babe. Like this is not it for you. And vice versa, you know? So anyway, that's what I literally said to my team this morning. I was like, oh, you'll see on our plan, June, July, and August have literally nothing because I'm not my best self then. Yeah, Sam, you hate January and February. It's so true. It's so funny. But like acknowledging that I feel like is so important because trying to push against that is so, so hard. So again, like for me, if I'm planning, I'm like when I put life on deck or when I put like other things that are relevant, I'm just gonna put like don't thrive right now, don't want to do anything else, you know. I want to be like away from Florida. So I want like more time and more space to like be out of the heat, you know? That's like what's going to be relevant for me then. And then like what I'm selling and how I'm marketing, those could feel like the same thing, but they're actually different things. And I think a lot of people miss that. So for example, like I'm trying to think, I'm probably not the best example here, but like to give another client example, like um what they're selling might actually be like a high ticket program, but how they're marketing that might be by selling like a really low ticket opt-in offer. And so that needs to get all of their marketing attention with the goal of selling this higher level thing. But it's important to distinguish between the two, because I think that can be jarring for some people too, where they're like, wait, I want to be selling this. Should I be selling that all the time on the front end? Or is that just for the back end? Or is that the, and again, it's like that decision fatigue takes over. If you're like, oh, what I'm really focused on selling is this, but how I'm marketing it, how I'm getting people in that is this. And like, those are different things sometimes. And so when I can see that on my plan and be like, oh yeah, I'm really focused on this like low ticket thing, but I know that that is like the perfect funnel to my higher ticket. And so I'm going to let myself just focus on that instead of feeling like, oh wait, but shouldn't I be selling that? And it like goes, you know, back and forth in your brain all the time, every time you're making a fucking post or whatever. How I will feel. I know this one sounds cheesy, but I put this on there every single month, and it is so fucking important because the number one thing I see that makes most people hate their business, literally, number one thing, is that they think their business should be giving them all these feelings all at once, right? So they want to feel like excited and energized and motivated and spacious and peaceful and grounded and easeful and like quantum leaping and they want all of that all at once, all in the same month. And so if they're feeling like grounded and peaceful, they're like, oh, why is my business not like more exciting and da da da? Or if they're feeling like all this excitement and motivation, they're like, God, I just need like peace and spaciousness. And it's like, and you're able to just make your business wrong no matter what. And it makes you feel like you don't have a business you can enjoy. Versus when I write it all out like this, I'm like, oh, in different months, I will feel different pieces of this. I will get to feel different things. Like for me, as an example, in April, I am going to run this event, this like online event, right? And so that month, how I'm going to feel is more like excitement, motivation, connection, etc. That is not my month for like pure spaciousness. If I really need April to be my month for pure spaciousness, then either one, I need to do absolutely everything imaginable for that event prior to April, or I need to not host that event in April. Like it's kind of that simple. And if I know that in advance, I can make that work, you know? Um, and then in May, I can see like, okay, well, because I just did all this in April, like that's my month for like space and this and that. And I can see how my business can give me all of those things, but it's probably not going to be all at once or all on the same day or all on the same week kind of thing. And when I do that, I find it really easy to not make my business wrong. Right. Um, like I just see how it all fits. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I think marriage is so this way sometimes, where it's like, you're probably not going to feel all the things all at once. But if you're like, okay, today we feel like best friends and partners, but we're going on this date night, you know, 2 weeks from now. And I know that we're going to feel more like, you know, a sexy couple or whatever. Like it's easier to see how those things all live and it's like more chill versus if like you're trying to feel all of that all at once on a Tuesday night. You know what I mean? You're running an event that feels like new Lacey territory. I mean, it's not really. I'm like probably gonna do a master class or something, but yeah, I said event in like a bigger way, but I am doing something very exciting. Second half of the year that will be new Lacey territory. It's very exciting. But you get what I'm saying. Like, I think if we're really intentional about how I want to feel and then cultivating that and then making that right, it gets so good. And you can see how your business can deliver on that all the time, right? It can deliver me excitement when I'm really desiring that. It can deliver me spaciousness when I'm really desiring that. It gets to be this like really beautiful relationship where you can see all of it mesh. I'm dead. I'm obsessed with your questions. We are supposed to acknowledge our feelings in our business. So much laughing at myself today. I love you. This is honestly so valuable. Thank you. You're so welcome. But yes, I think that's it, right? Because when we don't acknowledge our feelings, I think it's hard for our business to deliver on that. And, or again, we get to that place where we're like, wait, all of this should go all at once. I clicked the link. I'll drop it on Facebook. Now I'm back and don't see the link. Oh, yeah. Let me post the link again. No problem. Okay, that should do it. So when I can look at all of this for 6 months and go, oh yeah, in that 6 months, I have plenty of time where I'm feeling excitement and like, that like newness or that sense of motivation. And then I have all this other time where I can feel like more spaciousness or easefulness or whatever. It just feels like I can lean in, like there's safety, if that makes sense. Like I'm not like, oh my God, this is also intense. Every month is supposed to be like pure excitement. Okay, then something needs to change because like I don't want to sustain this like manic energy for 6 months, but maybe for 2 weeks, it's like super fun to be in all of that. And or again, like if there's something like I literally said this to my team this morning, we were talking about doing something and I was like, well, I have Disney at the end of this month. And so it can't be then because I don't want to have brain space for that then. I mean, it's like that easy. But also that hard because we have to acknowledge that we matter, that how I feel matters, that I matter, that my life matters. And, I think sometimes we're so conditioned to feel like it shouldn't, or somehow that would be like negative or negatively impacting our business if we acknowledge that. But when you make it part of the plan, at least when I do it, let me say it that way. When I make it part of my plan, it feels like, oh yeah, this all fits together. This all matters holistically. Like this is how it works. Like I am the asset. And so how I feel or what capacity I have or how I show up is one of the factors that matters greatly in planning my year. You know what I mean? And so when I see it as that of like, oh, my capacity is lower here. So like, let me match that. Oh, my capacity is really high here. So let me match that. Like it gets so much easier. Yeah. Christina said like, we aren't committed enough if we matter. Right. Right. There is such like a conditioning, I think, that is like, you should be able to do it without having these needs. And like, it's just such like a male masculine driven way of running business, I think, of like, your feelings don't matter, your deeds don't matter, suck it up and do it anyway. And I think, most women I know just do not thrive in that. And it's not how they get their best results. For me, in my experience, it's never has been. When I'm like, it matters how I feel in relation to all of this. It matters what my capacity is in relation to all of this. And if I plan things for how I want to feel and when my capacity is highest, etc., it's just so fucking easy to get the result. When I'm like working against myself, when I'm like, oh, I'm gonna like do this thing when it's like the most inconvenient time imaginable for me. I'm just never gonna get the best result from that. So anyway, for me, it's like, yes, because I want to feel good in my business, but also it feels strategic too. Because that thing's going to happen in my life regardless. Like I'm not going to like not go to Disney with my family or not have, trips with Bennett. I'm going to do that anyway. So like if I can make it work better, I want to make it work better. So then what I do, I have these little sections. You'll see if you open the template is I have so I have like all of that. And then I move everything I move to like the last page of it, which I have titled I Am a Badass. And it sounds so cheesy, but every time I do something, I just move it there, like copy paste, copy paste. And it's so helpful because at the end of months, I can be like, I did so much shit. And it makes me feel really like, oh my God, I'm such a badass. Instead of like, I should have done more, or like, what did I even do? Or, I think it reminds me of that like social media trend that was going around of like thinking I like didn't do much this year, but actually, right? Like that is that for me, is like, oh yeah, like thinking I didn't do much, but like, holy shit, when I really look at this, it's like mind blowing what I've gotten done. So that's kind of how I do my 6-month plan. I put my goals at the front and then I just write all that out. In terms of my team, I just share with them like a very basic outline as a starting point, just so it's not overwhelming for them too, and or so they don't feel like responsible for how my like my feelings in the business to a certain extent. But I'll just be like, cool, this is January. This is what I want to focus on in February. This is what I want to focus on. These months, here's why, here's what marketing is required of that, and just kind of give them like a very like broad outline like that. But I think it's really helpful for them too, because they can like, I also think, so it's kind of like a different conversation, but it's important to say here. I think that when you don't feel like your team is fully supporting you, one of the biggest reasons I see is because you haven't communicated this level of intentionality to them. So for example, my team has a broad overview of the entire 2025. And when I was talking to them this morning, they were like, okay, so this thing in October. And I was like, yeah, that thing in October, we need to have someone hired for by probably February. Can you like put that down for February? And it's like, that's how I'm going to feel massively supported by them. I'm not going to have this thing in October in my head, forget to communicate it, get to July and be like, guys, we're scrambling. Or like, why is my team not being more helpful? Or why do I feel like it's always on me? Or like, why does everything feel so last minute? I mean, it sounds so obvious, but like, honestly, that's why most of the time is because they don't have the broad strokes or the outline or the goals. And so it's much harder for them to make sure they're doing stuff now that moves you to that. And some of that can shift. Like we're still going through some team transition right now. Yay. I'm kidding. But so it's like they don't need to do all of that in January. They don't need to go get a whole project plan set out for the whole year. But we do need to know like there are a few things that need our attention soon-ish. How can we do that to save ourselves a lot of headache and issue later on? And so being able to share that, I think, is really helpful too. And I think it's how you will often feel like, oh, I truly have a team supporting me. They truly get it. And, maybe, or if they don't, like, you're like, well, they had every opportunity to. I wasn't like throwing out stuff last minute. I wasn't unclear. I wasn't whatever. So I think that's really important too. Let me think of what else I wanted to say on this. I love that. I call it a done list. So celebratory. So good, Claire. Yes. Okay. So the other thing that I included on there for in terms of plan that I wanted to share is what I do as like a brain dump template. So another thing that I feel like I have personally gotten wrong over the years and that I see other people get wrong is trying to fit every idea I have into the 6-month plan. Hey, Suzanne, team is a big one this year. Finding the right people, that feels harder. I hear that. Yes, we have definitely been in some transition. I get it. But it's so worth it. It's like the most worthwhile work to do in your business, truly. Yeah, Michelle, exactly. Having that bigger picture also helps teams make better decisions on your behalf too. So anyway, a mistake is like trying to fit every idea or thought or thing into the 6-month plan. I feel like this makes business feel so chaotic. I feel like it makes you feel like you can't get anything done because you're looking at like all of these things that you're somehow trying to cram into 6 months. And I feel like it makes you make things that aren't important. Like you're like, oh, I really, really, really wanted to get this like whatever random thing set up because it like seems like a good idea or something, but like it just isn't important enough that it should fit into a whole plan or that it should be taking up all this team time and energy when actually our goals are over here. So what I also do is I do a separate brain dump thing. And I don't share this with my team, to be honest with you, because I feel like it would be chaotic for them too. So this is just like a place for me to put every random ass idea that I have. So I have it divided up into things like Facebook, Instagram, other social, paid traffic, team, clients, whatever. And when I have an idea, I just put it there. Like, oh, it would be so cool if we blip, blip, blip. And so what's so nice about putting it here is it lives somewhere. It doesn't live in my brain because my brain gets very full very quickly. And it helps me be a better filter. So what I will often do is I'll put a bunch of stuff on there and then I'll like go back to it later and I'm like, huh, why did I even think this was a good idea? Don't remember. Seemed exciting at the time, seems stupid now. Delete. Right? That is so helpful. It is so helpful to have that filter. It is so helpful to have something have to sit there and for it to seem like just as good of an idea 3 weeks from now as it seems like today, because a lot of things do not pass that test. Okay. They do not pass that test. And then it helps me see all of it and see what really matters. Like, okay, I have, like my whatever, let's just pick something like my automation tab is getting huge, huge, huge. Do I want to do something with that or do I just keep having ideas there? But it's like truly, if I'm real with myself, like that's not the most important for us right now. You get to pick, you know what I mean? Um, and then you have to like something enough that you want to move it from there to your plan, right? So you have to be like, this is important enough that it's moving to the plan. This is truly getting done, and or like this is not so important that it's moving to the plan, but I'm willing to set aside an hour today to work on it or something. So on the brain dump thing, I like never have more than 3 things I'll like actively work on at a time. Because if I do, it's chaos. Like I'm just preventing chaos, right? Michelle said when I worked in a 9 to 5, we used to call that our parking lot where we parked our ideas. Yeah, I love that. So true. All our great ideas. Exactly. Exactly. You guys all have been there where you like get hyped on, you saw this thing, or you watch this training or whatever, and you're like, yeah. And then like 3 weeks from now, you're like, why was that a good idea? Like, who knows? Chaos. I know that well. Oh my gosh, it's so funny that I said that word, right? But this is just like controlling the chaos because I think as an entrepreneur, it is natural to have so many ideas and to have so many things that you want to do. I mean, to go back to our conversation from the beginning of this around like TikTok changing or potentially going away is like, you could have 500 ideas related to that. Like, oh, I do want to get on this new app and I want to do da da da. And I actually want to do more content like this. And I want to do this and I want to, right? If you try to go like make all of that happen tomorrow, it is going to feel like fucking chaos. If you're like, I have a place to put that, I'm going to think about that. Let's see how this plays out, blah, blah, blah. Then it doesn't have to like swim around in your brain all fucking day, but it feels like safe in that it lives somewhere and you're not like losing those ideas. And it also is going to have to like pass the check of like, do I want to move this? Is this truly planned? Can I go explain this to my team? Does this make sense? Like, it just gives you more filters versus like I think sometimes as entrepreneurs we can like have an idea and then all of a sudden we're voxing our team about it and all of a sudden like I mean I have been there where I like have an idea, I like message my team about it and 2 days later I'm like, oh my God, we're like down a rabbit hole that like I did not even mean for us to go down. Like why did my team just spend all of their time today on this thing that I like moderately don't even care about anymore? You know what I mean? So this is sort of my like prevention tactic for that. Um, and I put like life stuff on there too. And just really try to like keep tabs on myself, basically. Um, in that way. So I keep it pretty simple. Like the plan can always change. I can have stuff on the brain dump doc that like really inspires me. I can move it over to the plan. I can decide that something on the brain dump doc feels much more exciting than the thing I have on the plan and I can switch it out. I mean, like there are like endless ways to like adjust, but like there's a baseline and there's a filter. And I think that's what's really important. And then like there's a process, so to speak. So like if I went and adjusted something on the plan, I would need to go tell my team like, hey, we're adjusting this. So that's helpful too, or like, it like there's natural steps there, I guess is what I want to say, right? Where it's like, oh, if this moves here, then this moves here, then I need to go communicate this and blah, blah, blah. And it just kind of keeps us all on track a little bit better. And it makes me personally feel like I can see where we're going. Also, like it helps because I feel like, let me think of how to say this. I really try to look at my business in a much broader sense. Like, it's not like, what am I making this month? It's like, what are we making the next 6 months or this year? And so, for example, for me personally, when I look at this year, I'm doing one like online event, like I said, and I'm doing one thing in October that's totally new for me. But knowing that makes everything easier because then every month I'm not like, oh my God, should I be da da da? I'm like, I have this thing I'm focused on for October. Oh my God, should I be? I have this cool thing I'm doing. Like, that's my thing. And I think especially at this time of year, it's really easy to get into that because it's like the goal feels so far off because it's the end of the year, but it also feels like a very exciting time for a lot of people. And so personally for me, that just keeps me like balanced and focused where I'm like, got it, got it. Oh, I'm craving X. I have a plan for that. Oh, I'm wanting Y. That's already like in motion for this year. Even if it's not in motion in the sense that like I don't have 5 to-dos about it today, or my team isn't like actively like creating it today, but it's like in motion in the sense that it's like part of our plan. It's part of what we're working to. It's part of our goal, you know? So that's pretty much it. That's how I do it. Um, I make feelings matter, I make life matter, but I also try to be really strategic on like what I'm marketing, what I'm selling. I try to remove all decision fatigue and I try to make it adaptable. Um, I don't like plan down to the nitty gritty of like, here are my marketing topics for this week or anything like that. I think social is not in a place where it's simple to do that anymore. I just like have my broad overviews and roll with that. So all the templates are there for you. I'll put the link in one more time. You can go grab those if they're helpful. You'll have the brain dump one. I also filled out a 6-month plan of just like an example one for someone. If that's helpful to you too, if you're like, I hear you, but like, what does this look like in action? There's an example one filled out. And then there's also like a little video for me where I kind of explain a bit and do like a screen share of how to use it. This is more like how I use it, but I do a little bit of like, here's how to use the template. So you'll find all of that there. I'm trying to think of what else I wanted to say regarding planning, but I think that's kind of it. Like, I feel like the last piece I would say is just like pay attention to like what feels good to you. I mean, I think that that sounds so simple, but you know, kind of to the point that we were making with Christina of like, does it matter? Is like if the planning feels bad, the executing will feel bad. You know what I mean? Like if your plan feels so chaotic to like make or hold or sustain, like trust me, trying to do it's going to feel terrible. Or if like the planning feels rigid and intense, trust me, executing on that's going to feel 10 times worse. Okay. Um, how it feels to plan it is a good barometer of how it will feel to execute on it. And so if you're, even if you do my templates and you're like, oh, something about this feels terrible, that's great. Pay attention to that. That is your like guidance. Figure out what's feeling bad about that. Lean into that. Solve for that. Because if not, that like the execution is never going to feel better than that. You know what I mean? Um, so I just think that it's so important for us to pay attention to. To me, there's no right way to plan except that it would feel good. Um, because when you have a plan that feels good, execution feels pretty good too. When you have a plan that feels so overwhelming every time you look at it, or it felt so difficult to plan, or it feels like there's so many moving pieces, it's gonna feel like that every fucking time you go to work on it. Um, I told my students 2023, Christina would have had a crazy ass plan. 2024, Christina has a very simple plan. I love them. Right. And I think that's so helpful because it's like the crazy ass plan feels crazy to execute. Like sometimes that's okay. And sometimes it's crazy making. The simple plan often feels simple to execute. And that's so different and so much easier. So I think that's like the perfect example of it. Like if you're like, oh my God, planning was insane. Like executing is about to be insane too. Okay. So use that in mind. These are not like the end all be all, but if they help it feel better, I hope that's true for me. It really does. This just makes me feel like, okay, I have a middle ground. I have a plan, but I have flexibility. I have a brain dump. I don't have to do everything at once. Like for me, the point is that it feels good and the plan feels good, which means executing on it feels good. So I hope that helps. I hope you like the templates. Let me know if y'all have questions. And thank you guys so much for being here. I'll see y'all next week. And I hope you have a beautiful Monday and an amazing rest of your week. Bye, y'all.